Welcome to the Lake Effect podcast, Barry's and Muskoka's fine home building and cottage building podcast. I'm here today with Eric Drury from Accurate Glass. I'm Mike Weiner from Accurate Glass, and we also have Mario Solis from Barry Chrysler, who's going to join us in a few minutes. Kale, of course, at the controls here. So we'll jump right into it. So today's topic, what we want to talk about, we serve Barry and we serve Muskoka. And part of serving Barry and Muskoka is dealing with the weather, dealing with winter, and dealing with a lot of snow. One of the reasons we call this the Lake Effect podcast is because we're subject to the lake effect. Most people know what that is. Moist air comes off the Great Lakes and then dumps on us as they get the uplift. Just so that the viewers know, my history, I was a pilot. I was a commercial pilot for a time period, and part of the education that you get as a commercial pilot is about weather. And knowing the weather and controlling yourself according to what you think the weather is going to be is an important part of doing business in this area. So we'll jump right into it. So I got a few questions for you, Eric. So what do you drive? First of all, what do you do? What's your position in the company?
I'm a installation field supervisor, but I also do a lot of installations myself. At the moment, we have a 2023 Mercedes-Benz 4x4 Sprinter.
Okay.
Obviously, the 4x4 is very desirable in the wintertime, but even in the summertime, with the roads that we travel down, it's a big help for sure.
Okay, so let's give the viewers a little bit of history here, going back a few years. So when we took over the company, there was some Econoline vans, like the old school V8,
Little red rockets.
Yeah, the red rockets, like the Rogers trucks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, with the appropriate amount of rust holes. We also had a white Econoline. I don't know, other business owners may have experienced this, but we had our catalytic converter stolen. I don't know how many times you've seen that. Catalytic converters. Yeah. So this guy who came and stole our catalytic converter from this Econoline, he had kahunas. He parked in front of our building. He was on camera. He walked his dog before he stole our catalytic converter. After he let his dog out, let his dog take a piss on our lawn. Okay. It's not the dog's fault.
No.
Okay. Then he got a Sawzall. He climbed underneath our Econoline and he sawed off the catalytic converter, threw it in the back of his truck, covered with a blanket, and drove away.
I remember the Monday that we came in, actually, I went out to fire it up, and it sounded like a NASCAR. There's nothing I did to that van on that Friday that would do that. And that's when they pulled the footage, and
we discovered we discovered the show, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm not going to dive into it right off. This is not a comedy show, right? So I don't want to dive into it right off the hop, but just our location in town, it can be a rougher end of town, or it used to be rougher, I think, than it is now.
It used to be.
And we get all kinds of shenanigans happening in our parking lot.
Yeah.
I'll give you the very short version, and you're laughing because you know what I'm going to talk about. Okay, a guy who was half naked who got chased into our building by a SWAT team. Okay, we were watching this the next day on the cameras, and we're pretty sure he used to work for the company because he knew exactly where the bathroom was, right? Okay, but those are ancient times, and so we're trying to be a much more professional company at this point.
Everybody keeps their clothes on.
Yeah. Okay. So next question for you. That's your whip. So you're driving the Mercedes 4x4. What's the rest of the fleet?
The other two installation vans we currently have are Ram ProMaster 3500s. Typically, configurations for those types of vans are rear-wheel drive, and we've had them in the past. The vehicles that we currently operate are front-wheel drive, and it's actually quite beneficial come winter time with the advent of having the weight on the front axle versus having it on the bed in the back with nothing on top of it. We've gotten out of a couple sticky situations just because of the front-wheel drive.
Okay, so we have a 4x4 Mercedes. We're successfully using that to go up into cottage country.
Yep.
We have ProMaster 3500s. I think we have in total 5 of them.
I can count 4 anyway.
Yeah, we bought them all from Mario. Yep. Okay, the service, by the way, is fantastic, and that's one of the reasons we run the trucks, is because here in Barrie, the service department at 400 Chrysler and Barry Chrysler, first of all, Barry Chrysler is around the corner from us, and it is centrally located.
Super convenient.
Yeah, so we can actually drop a truck off if it needs, some work or tire changes, and walk back to the shop.
Yep.
Right, it's fantastic. Okay, so we're running 5 of those. Okay, and So how does that help the general contractors in Muskoka and Barrie, and how does that help the homeowners?
It gives the contractors and the homeowners confidence knowing that we're going to get to the site equipped with what we need to perform the job that's necessary for the contractor or the homeowner.
Okay, so the argument could be made that the trucks that we have are suitable for the area. We do not skip out. We do not skimp out on tires.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'll jump back to that, why the hard lesson that I've learned in life and the reason which we don't skimp out on tires.
Right.
So I don't know if you've seen our trucks since we've taken them from you that come in for service a couple times. They have BF Goodrich, very expensive BF Goodrich radial all-terrains on them. Okay. So we don't want to get stuck. We want to be able to go down any driveway we're requested to. And for that reason, we do not skimp out on the tires.
It gives us, the operator, the confidence too, knowing that we're going to be able to get to and from where we are going as well.
Talking about the trucks and the type of fleets, I'll show you guys some of the pictures of our fleet. So if you jump to my laptop here, you'll see here's a ProMaster right in the foreground. Our trucks are very visible. You should be able to spot this going down the highway. Right behind it is another ProMaster. We kind of like to renew our fleet every 4 years. It's good for your business, right? Been good for us too because we're trading them in when they still have some value.
Yep.
Okay. And at the very back there, you can see the Mercedes 4x4. As Mario knows, if Dodge made or Ram made a 4-wheel drive ProMaster, we would buy one.
More like
just to try it out, right? Yeah. So, but the Mercedes is a good piece of kit. So here's a question for you. Okay. Why do we use vans as opposed to using open trucks or 2500s or something else or trailers?
It's most likely for weather control, in my opinion. There's also a huge safety factor in having a fully enclosed cab box combination too.
You want to keep that glass warm.
100%. You want to keep it dry, cool, or warm. In the wintertime, you end up dealing with, colder glass. Unfortunately, the vans aren't 100% insulated. Which will probably lead to a future point question. Getting to a job site, the glass does take longer to acclimate before you can install it.
So not everybody's going to know what that means. What do you mean by acclimate?
So the glass absorbs the cold temperatures, and then as it's introduced into a warmer environment, it tends to sweat. It repels the water, and you constantly have to clean it because it fogs up, and then it gets wet, and you can't install it till it's 100% dry and warm.
Are you okay if my aviation knowledge kicks in here? Okay, so everybody's been on an airplane, okay, and then you're ready to go to Cancun or whatever, and they're like, oh, we're going to depart, but we have to go de-ice or anti-ice.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens in the aviation business is the wing of an airplane is pumped full of extremely cold fuel that comes out of the ground, and once that fuel gets into the wing, it cools the metal, and then any moisture in the air condenses on the metal and can turn into frost and crash the airplane. Right? So don't criticize Air Canada for taking 15 minutes to save your ass.
It's totally necessary. We get it.
Okay, so the glass is no different.
No.
Right? So if you had a cold truck and or an open truck, like some companies have open trucks, because they're also doing windows and other things that require open trucks. And they arrive after driving through, from Barrie to, Huntsville, or from Huntsville to Port Carling or whatever. That's enough time for the glass to get really cold.
Oh, yeah.
And then you bring it in the house, and any moisture inside the house is going to condensate onto the glass.
Correct, yeah.
That's what you're referring to,
100%,
right?
yeah. Okay. It might not have been a scientifically, correct, but yeah.
Well, that's what you need me here for.
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you.
But you're doing the job, right? So the contractors expect you to get it in and out as quickly as possible, be as professional as possible. And I would say, using vans just ups our game.
Absolutely.
And says we're showing up with warm glass and warm silicone and everything's in room temperature. And all you're really doing is just moving it from the van to the house, so you're outside for a minute or two.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why we use vans as opposed to using other.
It is a great advantage, yes.
Yeah, even better than a trailer because a trailer's not typically heated.
True.
Yep. Okay. What can you describe, what is the worst weather condition that you've come across in the time that you've been doing this job? And what is the worst driveway that you've ever encountered?
We just actually encountered probably some of the worst weather that we've had maybe a week before the holiday. We were driving up the 400 into the MacTier area, and it was touch and go, the lake effect snow based off where the podcast name comes from.
Yeah.
It was coming off in different sheets, and then eventually it stopped, which was deceiving because as soon as we got off the highway, it was just a wall of white. And we went as far as we were comfortable to go and ended up calling the job off maybe 10 kilometers away from site, just because we knew we probably could get to site, but if it was snowing all day, we might have got stuck there.
Gotcha.
As far as driveways, we've gone down some pretty steep driveways that had some hairpin turns on them. And I was actually able to back out of one with the ProMaster because of front wheel drive being so advantageous. But I haven't had any issues recently with the 4x4 Mercedes that we have, just because, like I said, it gives you the confidence that you know you're going to be able to get in no matter where you go and get out at the end of the day.
Okay. Well, that's why we transitioned from these rear-wheel drive dinosaurs to front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive trucks. Yeah. Okay, so it begs the question, why don't we run nothing but a fleet of 4x4 Mercedes?
Because they're expensive.
Right. They are very expensive, yes. Yeah. You're paying roughly double for that truck.
Right.
I would argue that there's more to it, and I'm sure that when we get Mario up here, there's more to it than just that. I mean, the ProMasters have been very, very good machines.
Absolutely.
And they have advantages. No, they're not the absolute end all and be all for getting down a snowy driveway, but there are other things that they do that are better than the Mercedes.
Yep.
Okay, and for dispatch reliability, like if you're trying to choose between a Savannah, a Transit, a Sprinter, and the ProMaster, we have experience with all of them.
Yep.
And by far, not by a small margin, by a very large margin, the Dodges, the Rams, ProMasters have the best dispatch reliability from our stats.
I believe it for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what other fleets experience, but okay. So we'll jump a little bit here to safety equipment and serving the North. So the question might come up is how do we go about planning our day, knowing that we don't want to be like the school board, and say, oh, it's a snow day, don't send the buses, right? Our contractors are expecting us to do work, wind, rain, weather, snow. You described the absolute outside worst situation where we're turning around.
Yep.
Okay. But we, as a company, we do try and make some, an effort to predict the weather.
Yep.
Okay. If you want to jump to my laptop here for just a second. Okay. So this is our truck in action. So I can see the four-wheel drive van. This is typical conditions. We're not going to turn around in these conditions.
No.
Okay. Even in our ProMasters, you carry chains, don't you?
We do. We've got chains available in all the ProMasters for sure.
So what's that like, trying to put on a set of chains? Like when would you put them on?
The chains, typically you want to put them on before you enter into the driveway. Chains aren't the type of measure you want to use once you're stuck. They're not impossible to get on, but they're super awkward and inconvenient to try to install them when you are stuck. So you'd want to put them on knowing that there's a possibility you may not get out without them. So at the top of the driveway or at the beginning of the road leading in that isn't going to be optimal conditions.
Okay. Do you find that a lot of other contractors in the North and in cottage country are carrying chains and using chains?
Most of the contractors up there tend to have 4x4 pickup trucks.
Okay.
So I can't say I've ever seen anybody with chains other than us.
So this is us. So us using vans and using vans with chains is really we could just default to the 4x4s like everybody else. Right. But we don't, because we're trying to deliver a really good product and make sure, like as you said, the glass is acclimated and our time on the job site is, reduced rather than sitting around waiting for glass to warm up, bring it warm, and all the other materials.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So I guess when you're going to switch to a vehicle type that's a little more precarious in winter conditions, you need to take measures to make those vehicles viable.
Yep.
Okay. So the question, it raises, how do we start our day and how do we get good information to see what kind of weather conditions we're going to encounter? And I would hope that other companies in Barrie, like, plumbing mechanical companies, stone companies, cabinet companies who are going to up to Muskoka, or even if you're in Muskoka and you're starting off in Huntsville or something, that you're looking at the weather. Now, my training in looking at the weather comes from flying, from being a pilot for many years. And there's this great book out there called the Air Command Weather Manual. So for anybody who's watching the podcast here, the RCAF Air Command Weather Manual, you can just Google it, you can order it. It is bar none the best deep dive into meteorology and weather that is out there. It's not a hard read. It was, in some circles, pilots are usually very professional, very serious people. Some people regard them as the rubber chicken who's running the machine. Okay. And so when they wrote this book, they made it so it's like plain language. It's not super scientific or anything, but it really gives you an idea of how the weather works. Okay. And it's from a pilot's perspective.
Okay.
So it's not from a mariner's perspective or a driver's perspective.
Fair enough.
Okay. Okay. So jumping right into here on the laptop. So we use a weather picture. Okay. And the weather wader. Hopefully I can, here's Huntsville, here's Perry Sound. So this is today, this is real time, this is right now. Okay. I don't know when you're watching this, but, on today's day, this is the moving picture of radar. And you learn to, the scale along the bottom here, where it goes from like light blue to purple, and you can see the time lapse at the bottom. Now the time lapse, right now it is, it's 11:26, or sorry. Yeah, it's 11:24, something like that. And you can see that the time lapse will go from an hour ago to about now.
Yep.
Okay. And you can see the pattern of where the weather's going. So sometimes, when we get together so why don't you describe for people watching this, what does our morning look like? What does an install, like you're the lead installer, you got a team of guys. How many guys you got?
We have 6 guys on hand, 3 crews, 2 each. Usually we start the morning. We get the leads to come in, grab our paperwork from the night before, our hardware, get our glass all sorted out. And then the assistants will follow us about a half hour later, and they'll come in, just help us get all our consumables, silicone, shims, drill bits, stuff that a lead doesn't have mental, not capacity, but like they don't have the...
Yeah, you got a co-pilot.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, you're worried about one thing and he's worried about something
100%,
else.
Yeah. Everybody's got their own duties. So after we get that all done, at about 7 o'clock a.m., we all meet. We talk about the day's past events, the day coming up, what installs we have, issues from the day before, issues that might arise that day. And then to your point, in the wintertime with the inclement weather, we tend to check the weather forecast pretty frequently the night before, the morning of.
That's okay. So that's one of the things about, when I was flying as a pilot that I realized even now, running, like going fishing on the weekends or whatever, weather happens in patterns.
Yeah.
Okay. And the patterns are like a story that kind of plays out over a 24 to 48 hour period.
Yep.
So checking the weather the night before and then seeing the trajectory of the weather, which is why, you watch people, those people who are like, oh, my elbow's hurting, so it's going to rain in 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How many joints of yours tell you that story? Too many. Yeah. Me too. So, what happens is you get air trapped in your joint from damage or whatever. That's what the cracking and the popping is. Okay. And then as the air pressure is changing, you feel it in the joint.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that much wear and tear yet to experience that.
Okay, so you're relying on my barometer.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so the other thing you can do is just put a barometer on the wall, right?
Sure.
And when the pressure's dropping, that the low pressure's approaching, and low pressure means bad weather.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah, typically.
Okay, so that's a pattern that happens over a time period. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go back to what you're saying. So that you're checking the weather the night before.
We're checking the weather the night before, and then we're checking it the day of, just to make sure it's not progressively getting worse. We can usually make a pretty good decision on which way that day we're going to head based on the weather that's at hand. It's also 50-50. Sometimes we'll just go for it just because we know that the weather isn't 100% guaranteed. It does change. It's mispredicted quite often. And to go back to that worst weather conditions that we had recently, it wasn't supposed to be as bad as it was that day until we got up there and we found out a different case.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sometimes you can't. You can't. You just arrive and you're basically shooting an approach and you get there and the weather's worse than you thought it was.
And it unfortunately was that day. Yeah.
Okay. I think the message that we're trying to convey, or, as Accurate Glass, you as the lead, is that within reason, winter happens. This is Ontario.
Yep.
Muskoka has steep driveways that are covered in snow.
Yep.
We've done our best to equip our trucks, not cheap out, spend the money on good tires, carry chains, while still maintaining a good product, and as conscientious professionals, checking the weather and pre-planning our days so that we can communicate with the customers if we can't.
We'll even go as far as to call contractors or the homeowners to get their opinion. Nobody's in a crazy rush to get their glass. They understand that there's a risk versus reward in the situation, and most of the time they're pretty understanding, and they'll let us know if they don't think that it's going to be possible to get in and out of their driveway or the road leading in.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're as our GC community is watching this and the homeowners are watching this, we do jobs on islands.
Yep.
We have to worry about marine weather. We do jobs in Muskoka. We have to worry about steep driveways. We have to worry about road conditions. We check them. We're in them all the time. We don't give up. I think if there's one thing to communicate to the customer is we're not going to give up because it's winter time.
Yeah. No.
Okay. And we're equipped for it.
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to invite Mary to come up to the mic. On your way to the bench there, circle around here and just have a look at this screen for a second.
Sure.
If you don't mind. Okay, if you have a look at my laptop, so Eric's over my shoulder here, and he can see, and he's seeing this every morning. So this is the picture from right now that we saw before, and you can see there's a line of yellow, which is probably light snow, and as you watch the time signature change, and it gets to about 11:40. Okay, it goes now. It's at 11 o'clock. When does the time signature quits at 11:18? So that yellow spot most likely will be over Gravenhurst. Okay, and you can see the pattern is kind of like this. So, and because it's traveling in a line, what this picture says to me and should say, to our drivers and our installers, is that this weather will be over Gravenhurst all day long today. So it'll, in those conversations you had, it wasn't snowing here, right? But it's going to snow in Gravenhurst all day long.
Sure.
Welcome to the podcast, Mario.
Thank you.
Tell us who you are. Where do you work?
Mario Solis. I'm the fleet manager for the two Chrysler dealerships in the Barrie area, Barrie Chrysler and 400 Chrysler.
Great. Okay. What do you do there? Day to day. What's your day to day?
Everything from prospecting customers, selling vehicles, preparing licensing, preparing vehicles, like everything that is needed to cover the customer needs and they can have their vehicles ready. Right?
Fair enough. So we invited you here today, clearly because we have a relationship, right? And we've bought a number of vehicles from you. We've bought a couple different kinds of trucks from you because we have Accurate Glass has two divisions. One is an installation division, and we also fabricate glass. So you want to describe for the viewers the other type of truck that we have. So we have the fleet that is dispatched every day. Eric's in charge of that, the guys in the fleet, and those are vans. And the ProMaster's definitely it's 90% of what we're running. The other trucks are delivery trucks. They're chassis cabs. Can you describe those?
So the chassis cab is the vehicle you're gonna get for different applications. You're gonna put a bed on it. You're gonna put an upfit on it, depending what the business is. And most of the times, they could be 3500, 4500, or 5500 series, right? So depending on the needs that you have in terms of payload, in terms of the length of the application that you're going to have, right? That's when we get into the chassis cabs, right?
Okay, so I'm going to describe a little bit of our journey that we've gone on with you. Okay, so we started off, when it comes to our delivery trucks, we started off with those little vans. They started to max out for weight. The thing about carrying large volumes of glass is that you typically you'll wear out the suspension. Even in a 2500 truck, you wear out the suspension. So we needed something that was a little heavier duty. Now, when you look at a ProMaster, it doesn't look like the 3500s don't look like they're 3500s. From a distance, they look like a 1500.
Correct.
Okay, but when you get underneath them, you see everything's more heavy duty. They're not trying to. It's not like, those trucks the guys drive around, like the dualies with the truck nuts hanging underneath.
Yes.
Okay, it's not an image thing here. Right. Okay, and yeah, I hope that you're not insulted by this, but the Ram is not the prettiest truck out there.
No.
Right. Okay, but it does the job really, really well. Can you tell us, like the ProMasters, in your own words, what's the history of that design?
So the ProMaster is based on the European Fiat Ducato.
Ducato?
Ducato. So the Fiat Ducato has been out since...
what does that mean?
Don't know if there's a word in English for it.
Ducato?
Right? It's just a model, yeah.
Okay.
Ducato is the Fiat product. It's been out since 1981 on the first generation.
Wow, okay.
What we have in North America is the third generation. It's based on the third generation Fiat Ducato that has been out since 2006. 2006 to present, with the vehicles being in North America starting in 2014.
Okay, so just so you're aware of our history, I think you are.
Yeah.
So how our relationship, this is important for to describe to somebody who's thinking about what to do with their fleet. Okay, how our relationship started with Barry Chrysler is Gus and I bought Accurate Glass from Sean, and he had the first year, 2014.
You had a 14
Yeah.
ProMaster already there.
ProMaster 1500 short box, short roof. And it had about 350,000 kilometers on it. And it was running very reliably. Okay. Now, after 315,000 K, you're going to expect, like, if you're not like have your eye on everything, then something's going to go.
Yes.
And what happened is a lower rad hose went, and the driver was not he wasn't Eric. Okay. Somebody who's less conscientious about trucks and how to take care of them. He just kept driving, and he let the temperature gauge go right into the red, and he cooked the motor. He basically fried the motor. Okay. What was the service manager's name at the time?
Jerry.
Jerry. Okay. So I brought the truck in and talked to Jerry. We had a negative experience previously for some reason. I can't remember what happened. Something negative happened. And that's going to happen in every business relationship.
Yes.
And I said, okay, so let's give this another chance. And I brought this truck in. I said, Jerry, I need you to do the best you can. Don't cut me any favors. Just do it the way you normally would. But, don't do anything wrong. Correct. He found a used motor from a Dodge Journey. He put it in that truck. He took the old motor out, reinstalled the new motor, gave it back to me in like 6 days, and charged me a very reasonable $4,000.
Yeah.
And then we kept using that truck, and I'm like, wow, it runs perfect. There's no glitches. There's no issues. There's no Christmas tree of lights going on. And I asked him one time, like, how did you accomplish that? Like, most places there'd be glitches, there'd be something. And he said, it's a simple design. Simple design, very modular, easy to fix, easy to run.
It has been a very reliable vehicle for the whole group, for Stellantis, for Chrysler. The ProMaster, it's a unit that we have that we really don't see at the shops a lot.
They're on the road.
They're on the road.
Making money.
Exactly. Which is what we want with all the vehicles, right? So
I think, one of the reasons that we deal with you and we deal with your dealership is because you put, that if our truck goes down and parts need to be ordered and it's got to sit in a parking lot, that we are losing cash.
Yes.
Okay. This young man needs to work. Okay. We don't want to send him home and his team, right? One truck down can cost, tens of thousands of dollars in a week.
A lot of the time, the problem with vehicles being in the shop is the downtime for the customer, for the company, right?
Yes.
It's not really what you're going to spend repairing it. A lot of people will spend more money if they can get it sooner, because your real cost is going to be having the vehicle parked for a week or 2 weeks waiting for parts, right? So
fair enough.
That's why we always try not to have the issue.
So now that we've run a fleet of Ford Transits, we ran a fleet of Ford Econolines. Yeah. We've had a few Savannah vans, and actually the glass company that I used to work for in Markham ran a fleet of Savannahs. And so every sort of manufacturer has their thing. So the thing with the Savannahs is the transmissions were the weak point. Okay. And so what we did is we had a transmission shop, and we paid them to keep 2 transmissions on the shelf. So, and if we ever had a transmission failure, and that kind of worked, okay, just for dispatch reliability. What we're finding after all of this experience running the ProMasters, the dispatch reliability is extraordinarily high. We have minor issues, okay, a little leaking light, maybe a door that doesn't fit perfect. The gas doors, we've broken the gas doors a few times because they're made out of light plastic. But if anybody's watching this, I implore you to overlook those cosmetic and tertiary issues and see, if you moneyball your business, the stat that you want is dispatch reliability.
Absolutely.
You want that thing to go out and hit the road and be safe, and they are safe. They're safe to drive. And as Eric was pointing out before, the front-wheel drive is a great advantage in the weather.
It is a class exclusive. It's the only van of that side that is a front-wheel drive, right?
That's right.
There's benefits of that, the regular driving benefits of having a front-wheel drive vehicle, which is mostly control of the vehicle. But at the same time, because we don't have the heavy drive shaft, we have the lowest load floor on the market, which also helps in terms of like loading your car, right?
You know what I just realized? If it was a ProMaster whose battery died, there'd be no drive shaft to hit.
Yeah, you wouldn't have that problem today.
Yeah, we have a Mercedes down because the drive shaft got hit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also, I think the ProMaster must have a lower floor.
It is the lowest floor. Yes.
Yeah, so it's easier to load.
Yes, absolutely. In that gives us other advantages. We have the best-in-class wheel-to-wheel weld distance, and that extra weight that you don't have, having rear connection components translates on a better payload on the vehicle as well, right? So there's more cargo that you can carry because you don't have that extra weight.
Yeah, it's been a great truck for us. There's some things that it doesn't do well. I mean, like admittedly, like it's not the greatest trailering vehicle, right? Not the greatest for pulling trailers, especially when there's no weight in the back. And there's, I mean, it looks like a toaster.
Yes. Well, you need to get the new models. Look at the new 2025. A lot of cosmetics have changed, and it has a very different looks and
aesthetic to it.
Yeah, the aesthetic is a lot better. A couple of years ago, they also increased the towing capacity almost 2,000 pounds.
Wow.
To what we had before. So there's definitely maybe it's time to replace some of your with the new ones. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So a minimum of 3 years and 200,000 kilometers. Okay.
Yes.
Not that we haven't traded a few, and we have to get some newer models. We've done that a couple times. So, let's switch gears here. No pun intended, to the Dodge Ram 3500. So if I refer to my computer here, you'll see some pictures. There's a regular cab. So this is a regular cab four-wheel drive. So you and I have gone on this little journey or odyssey. Have you ever, Eric, utilized the delivery services of Accurate Glass fabrication with the 3500?
Yeah, we had a couple skates dropped off to can't remember what project they're at.
Fair enough. Okay, so the principal use at Accurate Glass of this truck, and this was like the crown jewel of our fleet for a while. So just to give everybody sort of an overview here. So we used to deliver by regular Econoline, okay? And then we switched to transits, and they weren't big enough, and we went with higher transits. We started buying the twin turbos because we needed the power, and the chassis really couldn't take it. And then we realized we need a chassis cab. But the way the insurance was working at the time in Ontario, they really wouldn't let us have, our insurance company would not insure us for anything greater than a 3500.
3500, correct.
Okay. So that's when I walked into your office and I said, we need lots of payload capacity. We don't need four-wheel drive. We'd like four-wheel drive, but we don't need it because these trucks are so heavy that the four-wheel drive does not bring that much advantage to us, and it takes away from payload.
Correct.
Okay. And remember that, you might have extra drive wheels, but the brakes are the same. When you're stopping, it's the same thing.
It is the same.
Okay. So we went with a 3500 two-wheel drive, the Cummins diesel, obviously the reputation of Cummins, and you talked me into ordering one with an ACE and transmission. Which I'm glad you did. Like, it's all heavy duty. So we still have that truck. We got delivery during COVID, which was its own, situation.
Challenges, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it worked, and we got the truck, and we used Gincore to make us a bed.
To do the outfit.
Yeah. One thing that's worth mentioning here is that Stellantis doesn't have a finance division the way GM does, or Ford Finance. And so you referred us to Sprucewood Leasing, which is a leasing company that they'll buy the truck and then lease it to us. Okay,
Technically, what happens is the fleet division of Stellantis doesn't have subsidized rates, or we don't work directly with any banks like the retail side will do, right?
yes.
But we still offer different options for the companies, right? So we have finance options directly with the banks, and we have leasing companies that will also deal with you, right? It's just that Chrysler doesn't get involved in it. It's every fleet manager contacts really what you're doing on financing or leasing.
Yeah, and you when we first walked in your door, we were dealing with Mercedes-Benz Finance.
Yeah.
We were dealing with Ford Finance directly with the companies, and the rates were good, and like you said, they were subsidized to a certain degree. And we didn't know that there was resolutions. Like, we loved your trucks, but we thought that there was going to be difficulty in trying to arrange for financing. And so I would encourage anybody who's interested in these trucks is don't be afraid of that, right? Yeah. Pick your truck, and then you can shop the financing out.
Correct. And the other aspect that a lot of people doesn't know, the difference between the retail and the fleet world, is that yes, the rates could be subsidized on the retail side, but because of the discounts being higher on the fleet, you're really better getting a higher discount than a subsidized rate, right? At the end of the day,
I hear you. You're saying that your brand works things differently, but your brand might actually land you at a better deal regardless of the rates.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so let's go back to the trucks itself. So our 3500, we have a 3500 two-wheel drive with a 14-foot deck on it. It has been a fantastic truck. It's got close to 300,000 K on it now. The only thing that's the only mistake that I made is I didn't order it with running boards.
Probably the second one I sold in 20 years, 4x2.
Okay, well, and as you know, we wanted to add another one, and I think Stellantis really didn't want to make the truck, right? Because most of them are four-wheel drive.
You can still get a 4x2. Definitely, like, we don't sell them very often in the area, right?
Fair enough.
4x4, it's almost a must in here, right? So.
Yeah, and I can understand why, because most of those 3500s probably get used as tow trucks.
Yes.
Right? They're used as tow trucks or service trucks.
A lot of companies will also think on the resale value once they don't have more use of the vehicle, right? And having a 4x4 against a 4x2 will have a very high resale value against the 4x2, right? So
I gotcha. Yeah. Okay, well, for our purposes, we prefer to run the two-wheel drive.
Two-wheel drive, yeah.
And I also find that they drive better. A lot of the deliveries that we do with these trucks are downtown Toronto.
Yes.
And they seem to be easier to maneuver into dock spaces and things like that. And so the drivers,
feel more comfortable.
Yeah, they feel more. The two-wheel drives has its advantages.
Yeah.
So what happened is our insurance company came along and they said, hey, we're okay with you running a 5500 now.
Okay.
So the most recent truck we bought was basically the same. It's the same body. And it's an upgraded chassis, upgraded suspension. It's a two-wheel drive 5500.
Yes.
Also a Dodge, same motor, 6.7, and it is. We're going to keep going down that road. So we'll be visiting you soon.
Perfect.
Right, as our company grows and Accurate Glass, keeps growing, and we keep getting more customers, and we have a CVOR. We go out of town.
Yes.
Right. We have electronic logging and all that kind of stuff. And so we'll keep going down that road, I think, and we'll probably pick up a couple more.
I mean, through the years, I've seen your fleet increase, and that means that you doing more business, which we're happy to hear, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, what's on the screen is a bunch. Just have a look.
Yes. So pictures of different.
Yeah, pictures of different ProMasters.
Yes.
Okay, so. A really quick glance at the screen, and the customers can see that the ProMasters come in. They're solid cargo vans, they're partial cargo vans with a window in the door, or they're passenger vans, window van right to the back. So these are all very traditional options that have existed in passenger vans for 70 years, 60 years. What is the most common ProMaster that's sold, that you sell?
I will say our cargo van ProMaster is 90% of the sales.
Okay.
Which is the closed one, right? There's also a window van. There's also now we have the electric van as well. That last year.
Yeah. Do you have a hybrid?
So definitely no hybrid for now. It's fully electric. There's plans on the table, but we don't have any information from the manufacturer at this point, right?
Okay.
That they could be a hybrid or something.
But I assume that Ram is enjoying their position in the market, and they'll keep developing that product.
Yes. They've been bringing more options on the ProMaster. Like now we have a super high roof, which we didn't have the previous years. That came out to 2024 and 2025, right? So constantly.
What did you say? A super high roof?
Super high roof, yes.
Do we need a super high roof in the Mercedes?
That's probably what you're looking at. It's
Okay.
a little bit higher, right, than the one that you have right now.
So even higher. Yeah.
So even higher. And it's only available on the 159 extended, so our longest one.
Does that mean we can start hiring tall guys?
But yeah, they're always bringing new product to the table, because the ProMaster lineup is definitely a very big part of the business for Stellantis, right?
Okay. So as far as upcoming product in the short term, if people watching are tradespeople, let's say they want, or even like service trucks for developers and builders and GCs and home builders, if they wanted to, what is the absolute least expensive cargo van you can buy as a site truck, including all incentives and everything, cash out the door today?
ProMaster, the tradesman model will be, and depending on the side you want, but you're gonna be on the low 50s for an entry level van, right?
Low 50s.
Correct.
Okay.
With incentives and everything, right? And then different than other type of vehicles, the ProMaster, if you change from a 1500 to a 2500 or a 3500, there's only $1,000 difference in the increase, right? So a 1500, you said I want a 2500, it's $1,000 more. I want a 3500, it will be $1,000 more than a 2500.
Gotcha. So they'll give you that carrying capacity for a few bucks.
Correct. So the payload increases somewhere around 300 pounds when you move through the different weights. Right?
So Eric here had been with us the longest out of our entire install team. Okay. He's driven every vehicle that we have to do installations, and I'm going to guess 4 or 5 different model years of ProMaster. And so and the most stripped down one is the ones that, were meant for the province that we ended up buying.
Correct. A cancel order for the government.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So there was I'm surprised there was an ignition switch.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just got the basic vehicle, no extra options.
Yes. And to the most loaded one, I think you had one coming in, and it's completely loaded with every possible option.
Yes. All the safety features and everything was there.
Yeah. And electronic features and map functions and phone chargers, proximity chargers. I'm surprised it didn't come with like a stewardess, right? It's a loaded truck,
yes.
Right? As a tradesperson, what is your preference? The stripped down truck, the loaded truck, or something in between? In between. Oh, too many features can be cumbersome. Yeah.
Not feature.
Yeah.
And we have that on the lineup. I mean, you can have a vehicle that you purchase for $53,000, and you can have the exact same vehicle, but with all the extra options, and you're increasing it for $15,000 to $17,000. That's how much things are available.
So the price ranges from low 50s to high 70s.
Correct.
Okay, and then and that doesn't include getting into a ProMaster for like a transportation company, like an airport van or something like that, right?
We don't have a passenger van.
You don't have a passenger van.
So we don't offer a passenger.
So what's the window van? It's not a passenger van?
No, it's still just windows all around, and most of them are actually used for building RVs.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's a base for an RV.
Yeah.
Okay.
The RV business is pretty big for Stellantis.
Well, I've always made a joke with the guys as we're taking risks in business, and of course, when I take a risk in business, it risks their job, right? Correct. And so I used to always make a joke, especially when we had that old Econoline van, that if this business totally fails, I could always live in the van,
yes.
Right? So I guess now I would probably live in a more upscale van. Is what would happen.
Well, I've sold some units that were turned into RV, and I even sold units that customers did their own installation, and they came back for service, and they showed me there's TV and beds and like a living room sofa and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah. Some people, it's a One of the inspirations for this podcast is Tom Green. You guys know Tom Green. Yeah. And that's what he did during COVID is he lived in a van and he did a podcast, right? So, yeah, could you imagine me and Kale traveling around Canada in the snow? We'd have a front-wheel drive van with good tires on it, right? Yeah. And we used to call those people ski bums. I don't know if that's still a thing, right?
I had a customer that came to see me, bought one. He wanted to go off-grid for a couple of years, and he did.
Gotcha.
He put that van for good use on 2 years where we traveled the whole country, right?
Okay, well, I would argue that Eric lives in a van part-time, right? Well, him and his assistant here are spending a lot of time in the truck. So it's helpful to have something that's comfortable, that's useful, that has a few features in it, allows you to, safely, take a phone call or something, and I find the ProMasters, when it comes to ergonomics, they're set up quite well. Yes. In fact, I would argue that they're set up better than Ford, Mercedes, or Chevy, right? They're pretty damn good. Yeah, the ergonomics are pretty good.
Yeah.
So, okay. The only other subject that we haven't touched is we have bought some pickup trucks from you. Gus is still driving around in a Dodge Ram, Dodge Ram Classic. We've loved those trucks. I apologize. I did terminate one of those trucks. I wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
Nobody was hurt, and it was a spectacular accident. Yeah. Yes. But I can tell you, it's a safe truck.
Definitely.
Yeah, I hit a light post. I was ran into from behind to a lamppost standard, and I walked away like a stuntman.
Yeah,
like brushed my shirt off and walked away. So I can attest to the safety of those. I wouldn't try. Don't try this at home. But
no, but definitely, the bigger the vehicle, the better chances you have on a lot of.
That's correct,
right?
Yeah,
that's just the way it is, right? We have kids. I have 3 kids. They all drive, and I definitely put them on big vehicles instead of the little sedans, because you know what, when the time comes, it's going to pay off, right?
I agree. I have a good friend who's a police officer, and he gave me that advice many years ago. Yeah. So my son and my daughter share a truck, and it's a Dodge Ram 1500. It's an older one. It's a 2011 with the 4.7. Yeah.
Like at home, we have Durangos and we have pickup trucks, right? So
yeah.
That's a lot of metal in front of you. That will help.
Yeah. So, safety's there too. So, we're going to wrap the show.
Yeah.
You're good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate, your opinion. And thank you very much, Eric, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for the years of continuous business, and hopefully you keep growing as well so we can continue doing this.
Yes. Thank you. I mean, you're providing a good product, and that makes it easy.
Thank you.
And good service, obviously.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and so people are going to be watching this. Is going to come out Thursday. So thank you for watching. We're broadcasting from we're taping at the Sandbox Center, downtown Barrie. We want to promote Barrie businesses and Muskoka businesses, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Take it easy, guys.